Hello, it is the Cosplay Pantry here, and I am here to talk about budget tips for beginner cosplayers. So I think a lot of cosplayers who are starting out, maybe younger, so in school or at college or in university, may not have so much spare money to go around. So these are some tips that are specifically for people who are just starting to get into the hobby and also don't have a big budget to spend and are looking to cut corners and save some money. So these are some tips and tricks I have learned through my many years and experience of cosplay. So tip number one for saving money when you're beginning to cosplay is sharing with friends or people you know who are in the cosplay community. If you have friends who are cosplaying or are into similar things as you, a great way to save some money is to share with people. Say they have a wig that you think will work and you just need to borrow it for one event. If you've got some really good friends, you can just say, can I borrow that wig? This has never been something I've done. I think it's because I don't have a lot of overlap with my cosplay friends, but if you're somebody who is into the same sort of thing, so for example, Danganronpa is really big, so if you or all your friends are really into Danganronpa, you fancy cosplaying a different character and your friend just happens to cosplay that character, then why not borrow something? I think it's something that not a lot of people think about, but borrowing cosplays off people is a great way to save money. So tip number two is to do swaps with friends. Friends and communities are great in the cosplay community. It's great having friends to dress up with and run around conventions with. So doing swaps and trading things is a great way to save money as well. So a good example of this is, let's say your friend needs a certain wig and you have this wig, you don't really use it anymore, so you think, well, I can give it to my friend, and then maybe if you give them this, you can have something of theirs which you might find useful. They might have a piece of fabric that may be useful, they might have some foam or warbler, the perfect thing you need for your cosplay, and it'll be free of charge. My third tip for saving money when it comes to cosplaying is reusing, recycling, and just reducing the amount you have to buy. As you can see, a lot of these are sort of very eco-friendly ways to do cosplay too. Let's say you have a wig. You've bought this wig, it's really nice, and a great way to get your mileage out of this wig is to do multiple characters for said wig. So an example of this which I have done is my Asami, which I'm still making, so it's not ready, and Elizabeth from Burial at Sea. And then also I did the Vault Dweller as well, and I also might be using it for Piper Wright from Fallout 4. So that is 4 costumes with 1 wig. So that is a great way to save some money, because then you don't have to reuse, or then you don't have to buy a new wig. It was a really nice wig. It was about £30–40. It was an expensive wig, and I don't want to have to buy a new wig each time because that's going to get really expensive. So I thought all of those characters would work really well with this wig, so it's definitely got my mileage out. Another thing you could reuse is accessories, undergarments, and sewing patterns. So make sure to always keep your sewing patterns in good quality so you can use them lots and lots. I have some sewing patterns that I've used like a ton. I have one from the 80s that I've used for several costumes. I'm going to put probably some examples up while I'm talking about these things, about these costumes that I've used these patterns for. But if you just keep reusing the same pattern, make sure you're keeping it in good quality so you can keep reusing it time and time again. That'll also, with undergarments, obviously you want to reuse black tights. You don't need to buy black tights for every single costume. You don't need to buy new undergarments for every single costume. Just reuse those. And stuff like corsets. Certain characters have sort of specific corsets, but if you're not going to see it you might as well just reuse another one. So I'm currently making a corset for my historical Elizabeth and historical Abigail from Red Dead Redemption. I know technically the corset will not be correct because both of these ladies are from vastly different times. One is set in the 1890s, the other one, which is Abigail, and then the other one is 1912, so very different historically, but nobody's gonna see it, so I'm just gonna use the same corset. The Heresy, which happens to be like an 1860s style corset, so it's completely wrong, but I figured it was better than nothing in terms of historical dress, and I don't want to remake some corsets as well, so it saves time too, which is awesome. Tip number 4 is to sacrifice accuracy. That's probably a little bit controversial because there's a lot of people in the cosplay community who only see screen accurate cosplays as good cosplays, which is not true. It's okay to sacrifice details on your costume if you cannot afford pieces. I know from personal experience that those little accessories and little details, they soon add up, and sometimes it's just not worth the cost. I've definitely done it in the past. I'm trying to think of a good example. I can't think of a good example. I've definitely done it though, where I've just been like, you know what, I think we can just get rid of this detail and simplify everything just to save some money and save some time. It can be really time consuming too. So sometimes it's just easier time wise and cost wise just to miss a few things. And don't forget, you can always add things later. You can always add stuff on years down the line. It doesn't make you a better cosplayer than anyone else, and it doesn't make you a worse cosplayer than anyone else. So number 5. So my 5th point, I guess, is borrowing clothes from other family members. I've not done this a whole ton. I need to get better at this actually. For my Piper Wright costume, I decided that I was only going to cosplay it after I found this coat. I was given this red coat and it was pretty much exactly like Piper's, so I decided that I had to make Piper because I'd seen this coat that was just so perfect and I sort of fell in love with it, so I was like, god damn it, I've got to do it now. But that costume was a really good example of how to save money because the coat was free pretty much. I mean, I had to buy a leather jacket, but that cost me like a $5, maybe less, for some leather, which was pretty good. So it cost me like a $5, and then the goggles I already had. I reused the accessories, reused the wig, the flask already bought, and the vintage camera was given to me. So I had a lot of stuff on that costume that I got for free. I just used stuff I had around the house, and like I think even the gun I made I didn't even pay for because I just had stuff around my house, so that was awesome. Always use stuff around your house and steal people's stuff to make your cosplays. So I think we're on tip number 6, I think. Another great way to save money is choosing simple costumes. Simple costumes will cost less to recreate because they require less items, and for beginners it's really great to be able to make simpler costumes because they're less intimidating, more beginner friendly, and again will save you money. Because if you think about it, if you have to make more things, you'll have to spend more money to make those things. But if there are less pieces to your costume, you will have to make less and therefore spend less. So tip number 7, I would suggest pre-planning your costumes and doing them over a large span of time. This means no con crunching. Look at me, I am your elder cosplayer. No con crunching. It's not worth it, I promise you. It's not worth your mental health, it's not worth your skin, it's just not worth it. I could make a whole different video about con crunch, but that's not what I'm talking about today. I'm talking about saving money. being able to pre-plan your cosplays means that you can stretch out that spending and not have to use all this money all at once. It means it's less financial burden. This also means that you can save up coupons or vouchers, gift cards. You can put money aside each week and then still have enough money for rent, food, whatever necessities you might need. 8? I think I'm honestly losing track. Avoid buying cosplays. I have bought cosplays, so it's no hate against buying cosplays, but I would generally recommend you don't buy cosplays. I think buying cosplays will always give you a worse quality result than if you make it yourself. Money, because they're never cheap. I don't think there's really cheap costumes. Even if you're buying them, they're still not particularly cheap. But they're also worse quality, which means you might have to do more repairs, spend more money buying new things and making those adjustments. I think this is very a case-to-case sort of situation. I don't think it's always a bad idea to buy a costume, but I don't think it's always a good idea to not buy a costume. But I think a lot of the time, if you can avoid buying a costume, I do think it's generally better, because you know what the quality is going to be like if you're making it. You know that the materials are going to be good, and there's also the big ethical thing as well. You know that your costume will be ethically made. If you're buying a costume, there's always... Isn't it? So it's just something to think about. I don't think that's necessarily a tip, more of something to be aware of. So tip number 9 is to use old fabric resources. So stuff like bed sheets, curtains, old clothes, anything like that you can get second hand is a really good way to save money. I feel like this has been said like 1,000 times though. So I was originally not going to include it, and then I realised I had 8 tips, and then I didn't include some of the most important things. Thrifting, materials and clothing is a really good way to save money. I made my underskirt and my apron for my Sophie costume from Howl's Moving Castle. 100% bed sheet. And also there's another one, Malon, my skirt 100% bed sheet, my top 100% bed sheet. I was really lucky and I managed to find like this massive king size duvet and that was like white and it was just perfect. And the good thing about that is, even if you need a different colour as well, you can just dye the fabric and then you have the perfect shade. And I love doing this. I have tons of bed sheets. If anybody has any bed sheets that they don't want, give them to me. Please give them to me, I want them. I'm not sure if this counts as point number 10, but something that I just recently thought about is being creative and looking for alternative ways to achieve the same thing. So I was recently reminded of this because of my Sammy necklace. I do need to still weather this because it's looking a bit all one colour, but I wanted to make a screen accurate version of her necklace, and this is made up pretty much completely of stuff I had lying around the house. This is loads of different colours of Fimo sort of clumped together. I had loads of Fimo lying around, so I decided to use that instead of something else. I baked that, and then these here are painted with gold and glittery red nail polish, but they're originally from an old chandelier that used to be in my room. And then even the little connector in the back is made of old chandelier. So this is a really great way to save money, because I could have spent more money on new gems. So little stuff like that can help you save money, and just thinking out of the box a little bit and coming up with new and creative ways to make things. So thank you so much for watching this. This is how many points? I'm honestly not sure. I think we've got to 11, but will I include them all? I'm not sure. So maybe 10 or 11 points on how to do cosplay for cheaper if you're a beginner. If you found this video at all helpful, please let me know in the comments, and if you have any other great tips, I would love to hear them, because you know what I love? Saving money. And you know what other people love? Saving money, so we can all save money together. So I want to hear your really good tips, because I'm sure I've missed lots of really good tips. Thank you so much for tuning in, and if you like more cosplay and sewing related content, please subscribe. Thank you. Bye.